Next up, we're going to work on the versioning dialogues. So let's have a look at the first thing that I can sort of grab to start working on. This releases button is going to open this manage playground releases dialog. So let's get started with that. I just whack that over there, throw this over here, and we'll say hyphen mod component new and manage playground releases dialog. Manage playground releases dialog. Just going to check the spelling on that. Cool. This is for a module, and this is for playground release module. Whoops. And this needs to be pasted in there now. So I can't name it up front. I think you actually can. You can just come in here and say like -- name and that works. I can't remember how I built that, but anyway, we got that now. So let's jump into our view again. And we want to have this dialog. So let's call this manage playground releases dialog. And this is going to need access to, maybe we actually use a view for this now that I think about it. Maybe this is a manage playground releases view. I don't know. We'll see how we go. We might add that concept or we might not. All right, let's give Voila a quick restart. Woo. And there we go. So that's in now, and I'll Control-Alt-click that, and let's just make this a Q dialog. That's right, we're starting to use the base dialog now. So B dialog, and we want to accept here the playground itself. So let's come in here and say playground, because we want to know the playground that we're configuring releases for. So that is going to be a playground. And now let's come in here and maybe just whack the results of that inside of a pre-tag. And we'll also come in here and we'll say the title of this is equal to template string manage whatever it's called releases. So now we can say playground dot and then the name of that playground. Nope, it's not name. What is it? Guess it's going to be alias then. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's the beginnings of the playground. Now, why have we got a red squiggly here, I wonder? Oh, we got to pass through the playground there. So we need to know the selected playground. So when we click on that button, basically we make the selected playground whatever the current card is. So we'll come in here and how about we say at manage releases. Or maybe releases, probably just releases, because the at symbol implies that it's event. Or maybe releases selected. I think just releases is enough. That should be obvious. So we'll come in here to our manage playground card, and we'll call this releases for the event. And then when that gets clicked, we emit releases. And we've also got an edit one as well in there. So let's go ahead and just add the emit for that. And we need to assign this to emit. Okay. So we want to be able to have a selected playground. So let's say const selected playground is a ref, and let's go ahead and say that's got to be equal to a playground. And now we can say at releases playground selected playground is equal to whatever the current playground is for this card. There we go. So now we can say the playground that we're managing releases for is whatever the selected playground is. And we'll probably have to add in a v-if statement. And there we go, to get rid of that type error. All right, let's give it a go. Refresh. Releases, that hasn't done anything. Okay, so let's see if I've done anything wrong there. Manage playground card at releases. And that should get triggered. Well, actually, I don't think we did anything to show the dialog. So it could be that. And we also want to show the dialog. That would be the other thing. So let's come in here. I'm happy to do this in line. And then we'll say, where will I put that? I'll put it here for now. Const manage playground releases dialog is equal to a ref. And we might just call that show releases dialog. That's going to be false by default. And then when the releases button is clicked, we set that equal to true. Okay, and now we want to model that as well on the dialog. And there we go, it's working, and we can see the current playground that we'll be working with. Okay, what's next? So inside of here, you've got the name of it and then releases, manage view REPL releases. So that part's working. Next, we need to have this list, which is manage playground releases list. So let's go ahead and create that. Hygiene module. Oh, this is a component. I always do that. Component new. And this is for a module, playground releases, manage, and I'll come in here, we'll just copy that. There we go. So we want that list to show up here. So let's come in here and say, manage playground releases list. Okay, so at this point, I think I might actually make this a view. So this dialog is going to show its own view. And that basically means that the fetching for these releases is going to happen within the dialog rather than the fetching happening within this view here. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to change things a little bit here, which is cool. And this also means that it could potentially have its own page if we wanted to, our own page for managing releases. So it makes the design of our application really flexible because we can just move these things around. So let's come up there and we'll get this pasted in here. Oh, somebody's sending me a wave. Hello, Michael Lamb. My chat thing is it's becoming the bane of my existence now. I think it's blatantly not working now. Let's just run a test message. Test! Yeah, I just can't see the results of it. Man. Alright, I don't want to spend this whole video trying to figure out how to get this silly chat thing working. I might just open up YouTube on my bottom screen. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that rather than playing around with this. We'll go studio.youtube.com. Then I can find this stream and just keep going. Live. And there's the live stream. Just doing that on the bottom screen. Sorry, I know this is a little bit boring. And I'll mute it. There we go. Oh, cool. I got two wavy hands. So the next thing we want to do is, yeah, okay, so turn this into a view. We're taking this concept and turning it into a view now. So we'll call this manage playground releases view. A view just for managing the releases. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. So the next thing we'll do is make this view, and I think everything else is actually going to be the same. So there shouldn't be much other stuff that we need to mess around with. So I'll say hygiene view new. We're going to generate a view for a module. It's going to be for playground release, and there's the name of it there. And I know this doesn't matter, but I'm really persnickety, so I'm going to change the color of that to purple, and I'm going to create a line that goes from there to our view. Cool. So the next thing we'll do is actually start building out that view. So instead of just showing the list directly in here, we now show the view, manage playground releases view. All right, Vola's going to need a quick restart. While that's restarting, I'm just going to open this up here. And the thing that it's going to need is the playground. That should be all that it needs, though. So the playground there, which is going to be the playground we get from the props. Now, since this is a view, we're now allowed to do backend requests, and we're now allowed to mess with the store inside of this component. You're only allowed to do that in views, though, at least with the architecture that I use. So let's go ahead and save that, control space. There we go, we get our import now. Thank you, Vola. And let's just give this a quick refresh because my HMI isn't working. And there we go, the view's now showing up. We want that playground to be inserted here. So let's come in here and say playground. Yeah, there we go. And let's just show the data of that to prove that it is working. I always do this. I want to be in control all the time. I always want to see my data as I go, just to ensure that what I'm doing is actually working. And there we go. We got the playground in there. And now that view, which we already built the component for, we can whack in here. So playground releases, it's not a view, sorry, it's a list. Yeah, here we go. Manage playground releases list. And I believe this also requires the playground. Well, maybe it doesn't at this point. No, I don't think it does. So let's come in here and we'll say playground releases. Playground. Actually, they'll be pulled in from the back end because remember, we're on a view now. So we know we're getting the playground, but we can then just pull in the releases. So let's see if our indexer for local storage is working well. So I'll do that down here. I'll say we'll do a reveal. We'll create a new file inside of here, which is use index playground releases. .ts. That's a composable. Got a cool little snippet for that. And then we'll come up here and we'll import that. So import playground. Oh, because we call this use index resources, and that's coming out of the local version of Pina ORM. Okay, because we're using local storage for prototyping. And then we can say playground, well, indexer is what we'll call this. Use index resources. And we can now send our playground release through there. And we'll spread that in there. And let's have a way of returning those playground releases as well. Now, the other thing is we want to filter these out by the playground. So let's accept some options here. And a pattern I've been doing lately, and I don't know if I like it or not yet, I think I do like it, is always exporting my props like this. And then just saying props as the first parameter here for my composable. Now, that might seem weird, but this is what I call a single context composable. This composable is purely used to basically take logic outside of my, my view, take it out of this component and just push it to the side. So because of that, I can tightly couple the crap out of this. I don't care how coupled this composable is to this component. I almost think of this composable as running inside of this component. It's not something that you would import from somewhere else. All right, so single context components and multiple context components. And I haven't seen a lot of people do this, and I think they should. I think it's a great pattern to constantly clean up your components, especially things like pages, or in my case, views when they get really overwhelmed. Just take that logic, and if you have folders for everything, which is what I do with this architecture, then you can always just push it to the side. It's a really, really nice way to develop. Okay, that's enough talking. Let's throw that over there. And so the props is going to equal the props. And the other thing I was going to start doing is naming the props with a prefix of the component name. So in other words, in this case, it's going to seem like a lot of text, but I think that's totally fine. Manage playground releases view props. So I can come in there and then just paste it in here. Makes it a little bit easier to import. So now we have access to the playground and we don't have to use toRef or anything like that. Because the other way you could have done this is come in here and grabbed your prop and then passed it through to your composable and then used toRef to maintain the reactivity. We don't have to worry about any of that because since the props is being passed directly through, we know that it's reactive because a prop is kind of like a reactive. I think it actually is a reactive behind the scenes. If you don't know anything I just said, that's okay. This is kind of advanced stuff at this point. All right, so the indexer, what am I doing again? Just had one of those things where I talk too much and so brain has farted out a little bit. We're making it so, yeah, we can get all of our releases. So let's do an immediate on this so that that gets called immediately and we pull all of our releases in. And the next thing we want to do is filter them out. So we'll say const playground releases. Usually this will happen on the back end, but since I'm just using local storage, I haven't implemented, a back-end filter for local storage. That would be a little bit overkill. And we're just going to return our results from the indexer, indexer.repo.or. And then we'll do a filter here, and we'll say playground release. And essentially, we want anything that has got a playground ID that's equal to props.playground.id. Okay. So now we can send all those playground releases through there. And let's go ahead and start using that composable. Use index playground releases. So const playground releases indexer is equal to that. Make sure that gets imported. There we go. And it wants the props, which is why we're getting an error, which is cool. Thank you, TypeScript. So we pass those through, and since this aligns with that error is now gone. They should get indexed straight away. And here I can finally send through our playground releases. So we can say playground releases is equal to our indexer playground releases.value. Now, sometimes a lot of this stuff starts looking like a bit of a mouthful, but you actually end up with less code, even though this looks like a lot of kind of naming of things, and it also gives you a lot of context. You can now come in here, look at the template, and go, oh, I'm getting my releases from the indexer. I can now click this and go through, and now I can see, kind of follow that line through to figure out where all of this stuff is coming from. So I really, really like just putting all of this stuff on composables and having that extra context. And I think you'll find that you actually end up writing less code and things end up looking even cleaner. So, rather than writing something like this. And you could absolutely do it in a way where you can write it like that. But again, I would rather just push all that logic into my composables and then show them directly here so I know where things are coming from. Hello, Battlezone. Good to see ya. And thank you, William. I will keep up the good work. All right, so they should be getting passed through. Let's check if that's working now. We'll come in here. We always want to feel in control of our data. So we always want to see things as we go. Playground releases. And that's just going to be an array of playground release. Come on, Volar, give it to me. Yes, there we go. And let's just whack that inside of a pre-tag. I think that's working. Is that a release? It's hard to know because it looks just, they basically look the same. Yeah, because it's got an ESM URL. That's a release. Cool. Now, since this is a list, we turn this into a queue list. And at this point, it's just fun. It's just using Quasar to get it all out. I love your videos. Big fan. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I think you're going to love this project even more than my videos. It's going to be insanely cool. I really think this is going to be like the coolest thing I've ever built in my life, period. I'm super excited about this project. I might go over what it is again in a little bit, but I've gone over it a couple of times now, so I don't want to bore people too much. All right, so Q item section inside of there. And then we can say v-4 playground release. Again, I always like to call things what they are. There's no need to shorten them. In playground releases. And then we'll say that the key here is equal to playground release.id. And there we go. We can get rid of that now. And TypeScript should give us a hand naming this. Playground release dot, is it probably the version, I guess? Yeah, there we go, the version. All right. And now there it is. It's showing up with the version. Maybe we should center all of this. Center? No, yes, maybe. I think that's fine. So this is going to be clickable. We want to be able to click on these releases. And then when you click on it, what's going to happen? We're going to emit an event that tells us what was selected. So we'll say on selection or select at, I like to think of it in my head. So at selection or at select. At select reads a bit better to me. The payload there is going to be the playground release. Let's call it what it is. And the playground release gets passed through there. So now we can say, yo, when you click on this, I want you to emit an event. So const emit is equal to, now that generator is not generating the emit for me by default. So let's go into view / here we go. Here's our view component that we get from our generator. Oh, that's the test file. So let's reveal where that is. There's the component. And let's make it so that we get const emit is equal to define emits by default when we generate that. Cool. That's done now. So we're going to emit a select event. And there we go. And TypeScript still giving us an error. Thank you very much, because it also wants the playground release. So when you click on one of these items, so they should now be clickable. There we go. We can see that we get the little click symbol showing that that is clickable. Essentially, we would just want an event to go up. And in view 3.3, we can now do a console.log. Check this out. This is so handy. It's such a basic thing, but it's so effing useful. We can now just go console.log directly in line. You never used to be able to do this. I used to create my own boot file, my own sort of logger, just so I could do a log in line like this. But now we can come in here and just say playground release, and just check that it's working. Just check that our event is doing what it should be doing. So let's save that, refresh the page, open up the console, make that bigger, releases, click on one of those, and there we go. There's our playground release, so we can see that it was selected. Boom! What's next? We've done the dialog, we've done the playground releases list, we've created this view which pulls everything in. Now we need this create button. So maybe we should set a minimum height on this, because it's going to look a bit silly if it doesn't have a bit of height. And we want that kind of to be closer to the person's thumb if they're on a mobile phone. So let's come over here. And we're going to do the height stuff on the dialog itself. So I'm just going to say style is equal to min height, and then just give it something like, I don't know, 350 pixels. And whenever I do min, like min height or max or min width, I'm thinking in my head, what is the optimal what is the optimal viewing experience for the user? So having only one item in there looks a little bit silly if we don't have a min height. And I reckon 350 is kind of the perfect height there. But then if it's really, really long, since we've done a min height, it's going to basically take up more of the screen. So I think min height is a good choice here. A lot of people don't like doing inline styles. I don't give a shit. I think this is totally fine. I don't do a lot of inline styles. I just do it for things like setting heights and setting widths on things. I see no reason at all not to do them inline unless you need to do stuff that's more advanced. So especially for prototyping, I'm totally cool with this. So let's come in here, and I'm just going to hard code the dark mode into all of this stuff. I think I just need to do it on the list. I don't do a lot of dark mode these days, so yeah. And then on the list itself, let's give this a background of gray 9 maybe. Let's just go with that and see what that looks like. Okay, so we're going to want it on the view as well. So let's go out one more step and say class is equal to background dash gray dash 10 maybe. Let's try that. Yeah, all right, that looks okay. I don't know about these headers. I don't think they look great, so I'll probably change them at some point, but for now, let's just leave that as primary. So we'll come in here. Looks like that's not being used. Can I get rid of that? And maybe I can just put dark mode on the Q item as well. Oh yeah, right, that looks good. So we can click on that now. And now I'm gonna scope back out again. And what is next now that we've done the list of playground releases? Oh, we wanted that create button. That's why we changed the height on this. So the create button, I think, would be on the view itself. So I'm going to say class is equal to relative position. And then I'll come in here and say a Q dash button. Class is equal to absolute bottom right. And let's also just add a class equal to Q dash, maybe just a marginal of medium. So basically I want to put it on the bottom right, but then push it out a little bit. We'll make this a fab floating action button, and we'll set the color of it equal to primary. And there was one more thing I was going to do, and I've just forgotten temporarily. So let's just save that and move on. Whoops, I did class twice. It's a bit silly of me. Releases, there we go. That's right, I wanted an icon. I knew I forgot something. MDI plus. Okay. Sweet. We got this floating action plus button, and when you click on that, you can then create a new release. So we need a dialog for that, I'm guessing, next. Here we go. We want the playground, create playground release dialog. Let's go ahead and create that. That's the next thing on our list. Hygiene component, component new. What's it for? This is for a playground release. What's it called? Create playground release dialog. Bam. So now we can come down here and say playground, quickly restart Voila, release dialog, and we'll want a model on that for showing the dialog. And we want a creator for the playground release so that we can create them. So new use playground release creator.ts export. Well, we can just write composable here because I got a snipper for that. Const creator is equal to use create resource. All right, come on, Voila. Give it to me straight. Ooh. There it is. And playground release there. Spread it in there so that's ready to go. And now we can have that on here. Const playground release creator is equal to use playground release creator. There we go. So we want to be able to show the dialog. So we'll say const show dialog is equal to a ref, which is false by default. And we'll whack that directly in there. And then we'll vmodel here, playground release creator dot show dialog dot value. Save it. Very nice. And now we want to make it so that when you click on this button, we're essentially just setting this equal to true. All right, all right. Okay, that's not doing anything. That might be because this dialog is not actually a dialog yet. It's not even imported. Playground release. So this is create playground release dialog. Let's go into that component. And this is a B dialog component. There we go. We'll get that imported. And what's this going to need? I might kind of think ahead and think about what this is going to need. This is going to need a playground release form. So we'll v-model a form here, which will be playground release creator.form.value. We want to know if it's currently creating. So we say creating is equal to playground release creator.creating.value. The other thing is, oh, hang on. I've put that in the wrong spot, haven't I? Yeah, that should be there, and that should be there. The other thing is, I don't want to be dialog here. I want to be create dialog, which gives us a little bit of extra stuff related to creating something. So let's save that, refresh the page, and see where we're at. Okay, we got that showing up. We got the create button. It's looking pretty good. Well, it actually looks awful. But we can come in here and now say that the title is equal to, and we'll need the playground to create a nice title here to show that we're creating a release for a specific playground. So let's go ahead and pass the playground through so we have that extra information, and we can literally just pass that directly through. Control click, uncomment these bad boys out, and that's going to be playground. Get that imported, and playground. And there we go. We always want to be in control, so let's whack a pre-tag in there and see if we can actually see that playground. We'll do the title in a second. Releases. There we go. We've got the playground being passed through, and I want to set the title here equal to playground dot, and then we'll get the alias for that playground. Let's add a little bit more context in that title. So we'll call this create name of the playground. Maybe I'll put it in quotes. This probably reads a bit better. Release. That's what we're calling that. Why is that not working? What have I done here? Oh, okay. We need to escape those. Can I not escape them like that? Oh my god, it doesn't matter. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Okay, releases. Create. And there we go, create view REPL release. So that's all looking pretty good. The next thing we'll do is create a queue card section, and then we'll throw the form in there. So we also want a form here. So we'll say const, and we want this to be something that we can easily model. Define model. And this is going to be the form, and the form will be playground release, but it's a Pina ORM form. So basically I'm going to take that model, turn it into something that looks more like a form. Got the equal sign there. Save it. Let's actually use this form now. We'll have a queue card section, and let's just throw the form in there with a pre-tag. Save that. Why doesn't it like this? Form doesn't exist on to define models, plural. There we go. All right, I think we're good to go with that. Now let's make sure it's being modeled. Oh yeah, we already did this. Cool, we're on top of things. Releases. There we go, there's the form ready for us to start working with. Bam! What's next? Next, we want to put inside of this dialog the playground release form. Whack that over there. Hygiene module, no, not module. Component, new. Actually, we already built this, didn't we? Yeah, we built it earlier. So I can just come in here and say playground release form. There it is. Get that imported. And then we basically just model that down. V-model is equal to that form. Looks like we're not needing that. At least for now, we're not. So let's give this a go. Releases, create, and there we go. The version and then the JSON schema validator for that. And that's going to be everything that we need to then create the release. And we then have to use the template. So remember I created that template thing? Okay, so in my structure, what I do is I got the modules directory, and then the shared. Actually, no, this wouldn't go in shared. Just speaking out loud here. So we had this compile ESM URL. Where does that belong? Compile ESM URL. I think it belongs. Yeah, I can imagine using this concept. You know what? It's not just compile ESM URL. This is specifically for something that's got version. So this is specifically for a playground. So compile playground ESM URL. We rename that. And now we move this into our playground directory. And maybe we have a new folder in here called utils. There we go. See, with this structure, it's really easy to know where to put things. It's really easy to create places rather than having a generic shared folder where you just put everything and it gets overwhelmed. Yeah, I'd rather just do everything via modules. It makes life so much easier for creating things. It takes a bit of learning, but once you've learned it, it's wonderful. All right, so what was this called again? Compile. Let's just find in that folder the word compile so we can fix up the imports. Here we go. We changed all of those to the new one, but now we're going to have to say dot dot slash dot slash. Is that where it is? Maybe one more dot dot slash. No, utils slash. There we go. Okay, so that's the thing we want to import, and we're going to use that again here. Manage playground releases view. So in the creator, what I want to do is override how it's usually created. So I do this a lot. You can now say async function is equal to create. And creator has got a create function on it. But if I do this, it's now using my create function. And essentially, I can just do this. Await creator dot create. And that expects to have a form. I'm literally just going to steal that type. Yeah, okay, that's the type there. So we're going to steal that type and whack it in there. Instead of model type, this is playground release. And then that form gets sent directly to the creator. So essentially, I've rewritten the same code. I've literally done a bunch of nothing. I've just taken the create function on the creator and overridden it with my own create function. But now I can tap into it. So now I can say, compile the ESM. What's it called? ESM URL. So that's going to equal compile playground ESM. Whoops. Playground ESM URL. It wants the URL, so we can give it that. But we'll need the playground, which we get from the props. So let's do a reveal here. And we'll send those props down. So props is equal to that. Okay, so now we can say props dot playground dot ESM URL template. So we take the template and then we give it the version. Let's just lay this out a little bit nicer. The version is going to be form dot version dot well, just form dot version. I don't want the form that was passed through though. I want the one that's in the creator. Yeah, creator dot form dot value dot version. In fact, I don't think I want to allow people to pass through their own form at all. It's all just going to be based on what's modeled on the creator. Okay, otherwise set to 0.0.1, though that should never happen. And then we say creator.create, and we don't even have to pass it the form. We've essentially just set the ESM URL. So they don't have to put in the URL for their module. They've already got a URL template set up, and it's just going to replace the version with the version number that has been entered in here. All right, so let's come down here. So the create playground release dialog, we'll say class is equal to Q gutter Y of about medium. Let's go with that. And there we go. Now you can create a new release. Let's see if it actually works. Probably doesn't yet. There's a few things I might have to finish building. So for example, gotta make sure the props get passed through there. When this is created, we want to hide the dialog. So let's just tap into one of those hooks. Yeah, we've got an onCreate hook here, where I can easily just say show dialog.value is equal to false. All right, releases, create a new release, 0.0.2, and we want a JSON schema validator as well. So let's make that a text area. Dialog releases form. Oh. It does have a type of text area. So why is that not showing up as a text area? Something ain't right. Oh, okay, it's happening there as well. Q input. I'm sure that's how you do it. I mean, I've done this so many times before. Sometimes our brains just... quasar. Q input. Hey, Google, turn the AC off. Type. Yeah, type is equal to text area. Okay. Okay, it's probably a text area that's just small by default, but then as you add new stuff into it, yeah, it grows. All right, that's fine. You know what? It doesn't matter. We're prototyping. Okay, that threw me for a second though. So now we might be able to create one. So let's call this version 0.0.2. Give it an empty schema and then hit create. All right, that seems to have done nothing, but let's see if it actually did nothing. Yeah, we've still only got the one playground release, so let's sort of dig into why that might not have worked. Okay, so playground release form gets modeled here. When the create button is clicked, we have a create dialog, and therefore that should... Oh, here we go. At create. Playground release creator dot create. There we go. Releases, version 0.0.2, JSON schema validator, nothing, create. That worked. It's not showing up in the list. I wonder if we actually got it. Oh, so the other thing is I don't think we assigned it. Why am I console logging there? Okay, that's for the select. So the other thing I didn't do is assign it to the playground. So another thing we can do is with defaults here. Yeah, check this out. I can say in my creator with defaults. At least I thought I could. Here we go, form defaults. And that's a function that gets called whenever we go to create the form. So now we can say, hey, when this is creating, I want you to set the playground ID equal to props.playground.id. So the ID of the playground that we've currently got it set to. All right, so let's try that again. Releases 0.0.2, validator, empty object, create, and there we go. How cool is that? Man, being able to work with local storage like this is really amazing. The prototyping power is just going to be insane. Once I build out Augment Quasar, so a lot of these components that I use all the time, like this create dialog and stuff like that, once I've done all of that, it's going to be really easy to prototype things and just see if ideas are good and, get it into people's hands as soon as I can. So there we go. We can now create releases as well, which is insanely cool. Let me just check that the data looks good. So this is a playground release, and it should have then used that template to compile a URL, and it did. So now we've got the right URLs showing up. Very, very cool. Yeah, one of these didn't have a playground ID, which is that one. So it ended up being a dud. The backend would have rejected that. Okay, so let's delete a few of these things. Let's get rid of the releases. I'm going to get rid of the playgrounds as well. So now if I refresh the page, this is so cool for prototyping. This is so cool. Oh, I love it. So now we can create a new one, view REPL. The initial release is 0.0.1 with an empty object, create. There it is. There's our release ready to go. When we're ready, we can release 0.0.2. Just in case it's got any, schema changes, we can paste them directly in there. You know what? That should actually be pre-filled by default based on the prior release. Oh, that's a later thing. So we create that. And there we go. We can click on these so we can perform some kind of an action. We actually don't need to do any actions with these releases yet, though. What we currently have is totally fine. Holy crap, so I think we've built this. That ran a little bit smoother than I thought. Oh, we also want this update form as well. So playground form already exists. We want an update playground dialog. Let's get cracking. And I think there's some stuff I need to do with the local storage plugin for updates as well. So this would be a good opportunity to sort of dig into that. Can I just, yeah, there we go. We can collapse everything. And then if I do a reveal on this, Control-Alt-M, yeah, I can just sort of see where we're at here. So let's create a new file called use playground, what would you call this? Playground updater.ts. I'm in the wrong spot though. We want to be within the manage playgrounds. Yeah, so let's go manage playgrounds view. Okay, we're not using that. Let's get rid of that. And actually, I want to clean this up. Yeah, I don't want this function sitting inside of my view. I want my views to be clean as F word. So let's grab this. That's for the create playground. So that would be in a playground creator. So let's come in here and say, this is the create function. Override the default one. Instead of playground creator, I can now just say creator because we're sitting inside of this composable. Now we also need the playground releases creator. So we need access to that. So what I can do is come back here and just grab this playground releases creator and throw it above there. And you actually can't create a release unless you're in the creator in this this view. So yeah, in that case, I might actually take this whole composable and whack it in the playground creator. which will make things even cleaner. There we go. Playground releases creator is now inside of there. So let's save that. And now all of this kind of complicated, well, not that complicated, but more complicated logic just sits within its own file. So everything related to creating the thing sits within its own file. We can cull that. We can cull that, cull that. And actually, did I just cull something I couldn't? No. So now create playground is just playground creator.create. So it's kind of simple again. Sort of suits the way that we would usually do it. So playground, okay, so we need the form for that. So how about we do this? Yeah, let's jump in here and we'll have releases form. Playground releases form. I don't like shortening things unnecessarily. So now we can just say that is playground releases creator.form, not .value. It's tempting to do .value because it's a habit, but not in this case because we want to maintain the reactivity. And now we can say, hey, I want the playground creator dot playground releases form dot value. And there we go. Just like that, we've cleaned up our template, and I reckon this might still work. I reckon this might still work. Thank you. Let's just call this something REPL blah, and then blah on that as well. Or maybe we'll call it like prod. That's something you'll often see. Maybe this one starts at 1.0.0. Create. Yes. We can make that look better, couldn't we? If we got multiple of them. Oh, this is the fun part. This is going to be a row. All right. And then we'll just add col to all of these. Yeah, I think if I just go class is equal to col and give it a max width, I think it'll just go as wide as it can. Yeah, there we go. It just goes as wide as it can. And then the next part should be just Q col gutter. Don't forget when you're doing gutters for things that are using flex, you have to do col gutter. So Q col gutter. And we'll go large there. I like to keep a good amount of space. Okay, and sometimes when you're using gutters, they don't, often when you're using Flexbox with a card or anything really, it doesn't work very nicely if you go direct. Often you want to just wrap it in a div. There are ways around this, but it's just not worth dealing with. Like just wrap the whole thing in a div so that the col gutter doesn't end up messing with the card itself. And then you just take the for loop and the key and you just whack that all in the div as well. And there we go. Looks good. So now let's maybe align everything to the left. So justify start. Is that what it is? Justify start? Yeah, because when it's a row, justify center keeps, okay, but these are cols, so they're saying take up all, okay, I need to take this max width and put it on there. I missed that. And there we go. So now they should just kind of like add in from left to right. I think that looks good. Might be time to take another break. So the next thing I'm going to do is more advanced stuff. I actually don't know if it'll make sense for me to stream this because it is going to be pretty complicated stuff and I'm just going to be trialing things and making a lot of mistakes. But essentially what I need to do now is make it so that these different playgrounds that you can have... Oh, we didn't do the update bit. Okay, we'll do that in a second. But essentially next, we'll make it so that these playgrounds you create can be added to these channels. And then users can essentially use those playgrounds inside of the chat. And when that's done, you'll have yourself a really flexible, kind of like a Discord clone that is built for developers. All right, so let's go ahead and do the update bit, and then we'll be done. Okay. So, manage playground card, which would be this one here. At releases, we should have another one which is related to editing. Yes. At edit. Let's do a console.log of the playground just to check that. We can easily put a listener on that. And we can. So the next thing we want to do is have an updater for this. So we'll create a new file here called use update or use playground updater. .view. Template. Oh, sorry, not template. What am I doing? You can see my brain starting to go. .ts. Composable. And now we can say const updater. Updater is equal to use update resource. And that's coming out of Pinya ORM local. And we'll call this the playground. Yep. The playground. And let's go ahead and spread that in there. Does it get a form? I'm pretty sure it does. Yes, it gets a form by default. Okay. We're going to have a dialog for this. So let's say const show dialog is a ref that's false by default. We'll return that over here. Now we can come in here and say const playground updater is equal to use update resource. No, not resource. What am I doing? Use update. No, use playground updater. Bam. So we need to know whether or not we show that dialog. And we need to have a selected playground as well in there. So let's come in here and say, okay, so we've already got a selected playground concept here. Yeah, so we can just reuse that, can't we? We can. So when you click on the edit button of that card, come on, Luke, wake up. You got this. Selected playground is now equal to this playground. Okay. And see, the other thing is I got this cool composable called make form with ID. Playground updater dot make form with ID. I don't know if that's going to work because I'm not sure if I've built that properly with local storage. Anyway, let's see if it works. Playground.id, and then we can just dig into it and change it if it doesn't. And we want to then show the dialog. .show dialog. Make sure the right playground is selected. Make a form. So for our updater, populate the form with the playground of that ID. And then show the dialog. Let's see what that does. I think that's going to give us some errors because I need to change some things in the composable. All right, something's wrong. Yeah, use rest is not defined. So we're going to have to close this out and open it in the context of the monorepo. So QChat, open that up. Jump out of full screen and throw it on the side. And we want to start our server up again. So front app pdev. And then we want to say use update resource. And we want to go to the Pinya ORM local. Okay. So apparently it's using use rest here. Yeah, there it is there, which you can't use. And essentially, we just need to start culling things in this composable to make it work with our local storage concept. So you're going to die, you're going to go, you're going to go. You're all going. We don't need our rest data. We do want to know if we're updating. We'll keep that. We'll keep as much as, we sensically can. We want to know if we're updating. So let's go ahead and create a ref for that. Const updating is equal to a ref that's false by default. And let's go to use create resource and take some inspiration from that. Yeah, let's look at the part where we actually do the update. So we figure out the ID. That should be a one-liner. We don't need an endpoint. We make the form by doing the merge. We make sure we've only got the changed values for that form. And we don't use rest here. This is where we do the whole local storagey thing. Let's copy that. Paste that in there. Config state, we'll get that imported. This should be on update callbacks. Okay, it wants the model, so let's just send the merge form through, that'll do. Or maybe even resource.value, that might have better typing. No, it doesn't. Oh, that's okay, it doesn't matter. We're just prototyping here. And when we do the update, we don't need to use this form change values here. We can do things a bit simpler, I think. Because, oh no, maybe we do want... Yeah, so essentially we want to say, get the change values and merge them in to whatever that currently is, if it exists. Okay, so we'll say const original value is equal to resources.value and then whatever the ID is. And now we do an object.assign into the original value with our form. And yeah, we'll do the form changed values. So only the changed values get merged in. Otherwise, we could end up with nulls there where we shouldn't have nulls. So then we go repo.save. Where's resources? Yeah, and resources is being updated as well. Yeah, because this is using use local storage. I think that's it. This local storage plugin is actually surprisingly simple. Okay, so we won't need an endpoint anymore. Doesn't make sense. But we don't have resources. So let's find resources. There it is. Because this is essentially just our backend, whatever's inside of here. Use local storage. Yeah, really I should change the name of that because it doesn't make sense anymore because they're all using the same reference to the resources. That's okay, not a big deal. Okay, so let's just go through everything. Repo form, yes, we need that. Need that. Here we go. I want to be able to do this. Make form from model. And then make form with ID. Now we don't have a resource fetcher anymore. Well, actually, I guess we do. Can I use that? Okay, so we don't find the model, then we can't do anything. So let's actually just skip all that. And if we're updating it, we know it's going to exist anyway. So now we can say just make form from model and just send it directly through. Yeah, that's way simpler. So many type errors here. All the type errors. We don't have a merged form. Okay. So let's just do this. Const merged form is equal to that. Creating is now updating dot value. We're getting close. This is just saying they're not assignable. That should be fine. A few ugly things here with our typing. And now we can say here, promise void. Cool. Okay, so instead of ID, I guess we'll be using ID.value instead. Go. Yeah, I'll do that proper some other time. I think that's it. So I think use update resource might work now. And I think we also built everything out. So if we refresh this now, okay, something's still not working. Use rest is not defined. So somewhere. I'm in the wrong spot. While I'm here. Get rid of things we don't need. So use update resource of PNRM local. Use rest. Apparently I'm using somewhere. Doesn't look like I am. So let's go back into our view now. And make sure we're pulling it from the updater from the right spot. Yeah, we're pulling out a PNRM local. I think this should work. Where's that error coming from? Okay, it's for use fetch resource. Oh, because we need use fetch resource as well now. Oh well, it's the last one that needs to be built. So let's go ahead and get through this. Apparently we don't need that anymore. Actually, I think we will need that. Any of the error related stuff can go. Validation, standard, has errors, that can all go. Any filters and aggregates we're not going to use because we're just using local storage, keeping it simple. Okay, use rest no longer makes sense. Oh god, then we got to do the fetch. We don't have an endpoint. This is where we do the local storage part. So this will be similar to use create resource. The local one. Okay, and this is where we do the whole promise thing. So let's just go through this one step at a time. Okay. Well, see, in this case, finding a resource is literally just returning it out of the store, isn't it? Yeah, so all we really need to do, this is going to be surprisingly simple. We don't need endpoint anymore. Use local storage, pull that in. So all we really need to do is use the ID to find that resource in local storage. Repo.save. We'll do this. We'll say const resource.value is equal to resources.value and then the ID of the thing. There we go, the fetch ID. So that should give us what we're looking for. And then we just insert it into the repo if it's not there already. And we call this finding.value. Looking forward to getting this done. Okay, so it gets set. We save it to the repo. Put finding.value false equal to there. And we'll set finding.value equal to true here. Then we save it into the repo. And this will be on find callbacks. Does it not have callbacks? Oh, because they're calling it fetch. On fetch callbacks. Okay, we're getting there. Oh man, that's all just one big parameter. So it goes down like that. Yeah, and this returns a promise void. Okay, so we figure out the ID. If there's no ID provided, we throw an error. And all we're doing is setting our resource.value really, and then inserting this into the store, which it'll probably be there anyway. And this should be on fetch callbacks, plural. Okay. Don't think this will satisfy the type, but oh yeah, it did in this case. Config state needs to be imported. Oh, just working my way down. That doesn't make sense anymore. A lot of the error stuff we're not doing for when we're working with local storage. Change that to finding. So all this fetching stuff becomes finding instead. Still don't know why. They might have changed that in view use core or something like that. I don't know why I'm getting a red squiggly there. And that might actually be it. What now? Ah, that shouldn't have a const before it. Oh, all right, let's see where we're up to. So that did nothing. Gotta get my head back into the game for this part now. So let's throw that over there. Think that these are built properly now. So manage playgrounds view would be this one here. What am I doing? Oh, really almost ready for a break. We want to make sure this edit button actually opens the dialog. Okay. So where's the card? So at edit should be opening the dialog. See if it gets that console log out, and it does. So the selected playground is set. This should show dialog here. Should be showing that dialog. But this is for the playground updater. Okay, looks like we don't even have the dialog in there. So let's come in here and say update playground. Whoops. Dialog. Did I not even create it? Update. No, I haven't. Hygiene component new. This is for a playground, update playground dialog. Restart Vola. Get that imported. And we also want to abstract a dialog for updating things as well. So that's going to take a second, but we're going to do it. And while I'm here though, I want to say playground updater dot show dialog dot value so that we can show and hide that dialog. And then over here, let's control click into that, and I want to have we've got a B create dialog. And I'm essentially just going to duplicate that. So we'll say hydrogen component new. This will be a base dialog, base, and we'll call this B update dialog. Is that the convention? Yeah, B update dialog. So we take all the code from there and we whack it in there. Now, what makes this different? Well, instead of the word create, we have the word update here. We don't have creating, we have updating. And there's really not a lot different for now. There might be a bit different in the future, but for now, it's pretty much the exact same concept. We then B dialog, and we have an update button instead of a create button. Cool. Hopefully that's good enough. I want to have that on the side. And we call this B update dialog. All right, restart Vola. And while that's going, we'll come in here and we'll say const is equal to define models. And we want to have the form here. And that will be Pina ORM form. And this is for a playground because we're updating a playground. So let's whack that in there. And we'll come down here and we'll see, we'll have in here a cue card section. By the way, let's give this a title. Title, which is equal to update and then playground.alias. So this needs to have, well, actually, we can just use the form for that, form.alias. So we know the thing we're going to update. No, we might not need props for this. Or omit. Yeah, it's super simple because the B update dialog handles a couple of those things for us. Okay. And here we now have the form, which is going to be a playground form. There we go, get that imported. And that is going to model the form that gets passed through to the dialog. Very nice. Very nice indeed. And then we want to also v-model here the form, which is playground updater dot form dot value. Okay, so we're just passing everything through basically. Oh, all right. Looks like that did not get imported. And there we go. Now for the form, we can say class is equal to Q gutter Y medium. And we probably don't want default values in there anymore. So did I put them in the form? Where did I put those default values? I think I did it here. In the updater. Oh no, of course. Oh, this is it working. So I've found it. So we'll go edit here. We found something REPL and pre-populated the form. Man, look at that. This code is so simple. I love it. Whoo. View REPL with 2 L's. I don't know. Maybe you want to get rid of the dash for the alias. Update. Okay, I don't know if that actually worked. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. It didn't. So now, okay, we want to have the update, and then we've also got whether or not it's updating, and that will be playground updater dot updating dot value, and then update is equal to playground updater dot update. I think we literally just call that for it to update correctly. And let's get rid of the dash, update. Okay, so maybe some of the resolution is doing something weird here. Cannot convert undefined or null to an object. That tells me that form.value is probably undefined or null. Which would be weird. Okay, so it's not there. It's here. Resources.value. Maybe this somehow ended up becoming undefined or null. Object dot. Oh no, it's the next line down. Oh, okay, so you got original value here. Maybe we don't have the ID at this point. Let's do this. If not id.value, throw new error, cannot update without an ID. That'll do. All right. So it does have an ID. And it should definitely have an original value in there. So let's do a console.log on this. And we'll also do a console log on that original value. I'm so excited to have this tooling done. Again, I just love this local storage concept where you can easily swap it out. Okay, here we go. So that's what we get. Okay, so let's also log here the id.value. Probably should have done that a while ago. That's okay. Try it again. So it starts with 91909. Okay, so I reckon that ID that we're ending up with there is getting auto-generated for us. Where is it getting its ID from? So where's this found model? Yeah, it found the right model there. 919096. It's the start of the ID. What? What? the ID is different to what an index does in local storage. Maybe something funky happened there. That just shouldn't be possible. Yeah, okay. No, I got an idea how that could have happened. Well, let's just try this and see what happens. Let's have a little play around here. You go edit. E371A450. Yeah, okay. Somehow they've ended up different there. So when you create it, what happens? It looks like the ID isn't being passed through when we create it. Okay. Man, I'm getting tired. Whew. No, I'm not. I'm fine. I got this. Okay. I reckon that's getting triggered. Okay, so what if we did this? If not merge form.id, then merge form.id is equal to that ID that we just generated. That might not be the best way to write that code, but I just want to get this done for now. Getting into that state. Okay, so let's cull this again. And yeah, we'll create one. Edit it, get rid of the dash. Okay. B4197785. Okay, we need to look at the create and see if the create did something wrong. So come in here, create that. Oops, wrong spot. 1074 BEC2 1074. Okay, so that's done it right now. Okay, so that's correct. The ID is matching up correctly. So therefore, when I do this update, let's go back to the use update resource and step through this. So I want to go through all of that and figure out if our ID.value is correct. And if not, why not? 10740 BEC2 BEC2. Okay. So maybe this is not ending up in the form. Yeah, it's not. So this needs to actually end up in that form. Because usually the backend request would handle this for you. You'd get the response back and it's got the ID. There, yeah, I bet you that's it. So the ID has to be equal to ID.value. And we just merge that in as well. I think that should be good enough. View REPL. Okay, I think that worked. We just need to get it to close properly now. Yep. Woo! Huh. So then we call the onUpdate callbacks. And we should be able to say here on update Yes, and that gets pushed onto the callbacks. So now we can say use update, use playground updater. And all we have to do is now say on update, hide that dialog. I think that's it. I think we're done. Yes. And I really, really love how once you've built these tools, you can just keep using them. Like, oh man, that really excites me. That now my local storage composables are done, we can just keep doing this with, the only one we haven't covered yet is removing, but I'll do that later on. But I can really quickly prototype now using local storage. I love it. Go on there, click on fun stuff. And now I've got everything I need to display available REPLs and allow people to essentially create their own REPLs with their own config. Oh man, this is going to be wicked. All right, well, that's done. I'm super excited that's done. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you in a future stream. Maybe today or maybe not today because I'm pretty exhausted. I've done a lot of coding today. I might do a little bit more though. I really want to see everything that I just did there. All of these managing playgrounds. I want to see that tie into the actual chat itself. So I'll talk to you next time.